what the hell, poncho liners. Poncho liners. Can't think of anything else to share right now. Sun's coming up. Well, let's see, I can think of something else to share. What's your primary risk when you're living on the street? I can guarantee you it's not the other homeless people that are out there. No. You're probably safest if you band together in an encampment. But if you do that, please don't leave a mess. Clean up after yourself. Imagine that you're just as good as anybody else. You're backpacking in the Sierras, and what you carry in, you carry out. There are solutions for everything. You can buy largemouth drink bottles, Gatorade for example, to urinate in. You can get yourself a 5-gallon bucket with the lid on top and a piece of foam pipe insulation, very inexpensively. Some small trash bag liners, stick that in there. You've got yourself an instant toilet that can be sealed up so it doesn't stink, that you can pull the bag out and dispose of properly. And if you're careful not to make a mess, you can use that bucket to transport other stuff when you're mobile. If you smoke, don't throw your butts on the ground. If you're a snacker, don't throw your empty wrappers on the ground. Pick up after yourself. Show some pride. Your circumstances do not define you unless you let them. Don't fit the stereotype. And everything, once you're out here on the wrong side of things, is a battle. You can spend more money being homeless than you could if you could get into HUD housing, which is damn near impossible from what we've learned. So many roadblocks. Hans, when we started doing this, I imagined that, hey, I'm gonna swoop in like Superman, grab him off the street in Charlotte, bring him up to Raleigh, get him into low-cost housing where they take 30% of his income, which is less than $1,000 a month, but he's been receiving it since he was 10 years old. Hasn't worked in 18 years, can't work. It's not his fault. He had his first seizure at 3 days old and possibly had prior ones in the womb. He's struggled with seizures all his life. He's got thousands and thousands of tiny little tuberous skin tag type growths across his face, all over the surface of his brain. Has to take large doses of two powerful medications to keep the seizures at bay. And they don't work. They don't work reliably, not by themselves. In addition to the medication twice a day, every day, and the restrictions on his movement immediately after he takes them, he can't move for 30 minutes after he takes his pills. If he tries to move, he'll fall down. Not in a seizure, he just falls down because he can't keep his balance. After about 30 minutes, and he's been taking these for so long, his body and his mind and his habits, everything is acclimated to them. After about 30 minutes, he can be mobile. But he's still got to be careful. Rapid movements, bending down and standing up, kind of like a low blood pressure type of a problem. It's not. He has high blood pressure. But the wooziness that you get if you bend down to pick something up and stand up real fast, or if you're sitting down and you stand up real fast and your blood pressure is low, that's the way he seems to be describing it to me. I try to get in his head so I can understand what's going on, and I have to sort fact from fiction because, he seems to like to sit back and let me do all the work. Lately, though, he has been a lot more helpful. and I have to make accommodations for his lifelong learning disabilities. He's never learned a thing in school, not a single thing. Everything he's learned on his own, self-taught. But he knows how to spell, he can write coherently, and if you don't put him under a lot of pressure, he can speak his mind. If he's under a lot of stress, he just clams up, not because he doesn't want to talk, he can't. He loses access to his speech center. Anytime he's confused or being pressured or bullied or whatever. He's 6'4", weighs 205 pounds. He's fit. He was involved with the Running Works program in Charlotte, and worked himself up to trainer status. And the Running Works program is really cool. It takes homeless people off the streets, gets them equipped, gives them a pair of shoes, gives them a pair of running pants, whatever they need, and they go out and train together. And they get classes on nutrition, and they share information with each other about where to go to soup kitchens to get good healthy food, and just a really amazing, their one-word motto is empowerment. Because if you can go out and run down the road with normal people, doesn't that mean you're normal too? Yeah, it does. You've just become a victim of a society that seems to be designed to put people out on the street and keep them there. I have no idea why it's so difficult to get back into housing once you lose it. But even you people who have a roof over your head should be paying attention to this, because ask yourself, how many paychecks are you away? How many paychecks are you away from being homeless? And we're dealing with that. We're dealing with credit problems that he's never used credit. He doesn't have any reason to use credit. Hospital policy that made him personally responsible, and held him, when he tried to say, hey, I had somebody taking care of me. I had a caregiver. I had a payee. And why is this on my bill? Why is it assigned on my Social Security number? Why is it on my credit report? Why is it keeping me from getting into an apartment? Why is it being used to keep me out on the street? It's 2 years old. I didn't even know about it. So if my caregiver failed to buy the proper insurance with my money, and I'm speaking for him now, if my caregiver failed to buy proper insurance with my money, then why isn't it assigned to my caregiver's Social Security number instead of mine? If my caregiver failed to pay the bill due to negligent oversight of making sure I had the proper insurance, because God knows I'm going to be going to the hospital once in a while, why isn't it assigned to my caregiver's Social Security number? And since they've had 2 years where they were managing my money to do something about this, doesn't that count for anything? If I tell them I'm homeless and that I have housing available and all I need to do is get my credit report cleaned up, and they tell me that I'm responsible for that bill, period. No movement, no mercy, no compassion. And then you have the general stigma of having a seizure disorder. And that seems to be so pervasive, at least in the city of Charlotte, that it's disgusting. Against my better judgment, he talked me into letting him go to Charlotte for 5 days. He had a plan where he was going to stay, what he was going to do, and two of the things that he was going to do is visit the hospital's business office so he could talk to them face to face, and the other was to go to social services and get his Medicaid coverage transferred to the county that we're living in now, that he's living in now, the one that I've been in for 5 years. And he had some, and he wanted to get his social, I wanted him to get his social services records transferred up here so I could fact check some of the things that he's told me. That's another subject, and I'm not going to go into that. However, the plan went well until he failed to call me as we had negotiated and he had agreed and committed to do, and text me the address of where he was sleeping every night. I was afraid he was going to go back to the streets of Charlotte to save money. He stayed in a hotel for 3 nights when he arrived. He rode down on the megabus all by himself. Stayed 3 nights in I think it was a Days Inn, something like that. And then he kind of went missing. First night, I didn't bug him. I don't want to ride him like a horse. Second night, I got worried. Tried to call him a few times. He didn't answer. But now he's supposed to come home the next day. So I asked him if, I asked him as if I didn't know, I knew. But I asked him what time am I supposed to pick him up at the Durham station. And he texted back a simple, time. That's it, 3:35, confirming what I already knew, but also confirming, proof of life. I was worried about him, but, he really wanted to do this on his own. And he's been stretching his wings and being more independent, managing his own money. A lot of changes. None of it I can really attribute to myself. I think the Running Works program was what did him the most good. Doing a half marathon definitely restores any, being able to do a half marathon. Of course, that wasn't in the summer. You can't do any running in the summer because he'll fall down and have a seizure. But I'm going to save the rest of that story for the next installment because I just can't talk about it right now. He ended up in the hospital, but I'll leave that teaser in there, so you have to tune in and watch the next episode. So I kind of got off on a rambling tangent there. I think we should review. When you select your site, make sure that you're not seen from the street. If possible, make sure that the business owner or the facility owner knows you're there. And if you are a lifetime member of any organization, that's where you should try. See if you can find some place where they can allow you to camp out. Have the proper equipment. It doesn't take much room, and it's not that heavy. Aluminum cots are better than steel cots, but if you don't have to carry them around on foot, then it's not bad. But there are backpack type cots that you can buy that just keep you a few inches off the ground, and the same mosquito tent that I showed you earlier would work just fine. Be flexible. Don't get yourself in the mindset that you got to have a sleeping bag. Yeah, sleeping bags are hard to manage when you're out on the road all the time. And anything happens to it, you got no options. Modular, microfiber sheets, lightweight rain poncho covers from military liners that allow you to be out in the cold weather and the pouring rain when you're standing guard duty type of equipment. Helps to have a dog with you, but make sure your dog's not aggressive. Should be a good watchdog though. And don't worry about food. Make sure you have water with you at all times.